taking a critical look at the gaming news of the week. This is Augmented Reality, presented by the Triple S League.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Augmented Reality podcast for February 10th, 2021. A bit of a surprise podcast for some of you, I think. I even told somebody earlier today we were probably not doing one today, but we changed our minds. We decided it was time to do a podcast, kind of get some news and information out to you. Not only is there a lot going on in gaming news right now, but there's a lot going on with the channel, and we wanted to fill you in on some of the updates and also on Cybe's condition that some of you are aware of and some of you maybe not, but we are going to fill you in on what's happening with us, what's happening behind the scenes, and let you know that have no fear, the podcast is not going anywhere. It's just moving. But it'll keep happening. So yeah. My name is Ash. I'm here with Cybe and Moontag as always. And yeah, we'll just get into it. So I mean, as I said, we have some pretty serious things to discuss right off the bat here. So as many of you know, Cybe has had an adverse health condition that has been affecting his ability to work, affecting his ability to talk and communicate. And so due to the seriousness of that, I have decided it was a day to use Facecam because, I just thought a more personal approach was necessary. And so we are going to let you know what's going on. So Cybe's going to be okay. Just so everybody knows, he's going to be okay. He's not dying or anything like that. Right, Cybe?
Well, I mean, yeah.
Let's not get philosophical about it.
Not quite dying, but it's been
it's rough.
It's really rough right now, and this is the second time in a few years I've been through this. So I've been through it before, and it's fine. And you might detect I have a little bit of a lisp, and that is due to the fact that half of my face is not working anymore. And for those who have been wondering, it's like, why doesn't why doesn't Cybe do a face reveal? This is one of the few reasons why, is because this has happened to me twice while we've been running this channel over the past few years, and it's is rough, to say the least. It's very disturbing, and I mean, I totally understand it. On top of just my regular inability to reflect emotion properly, this just makes things 1,000 times worse, and I literally feel like Phantom of the Opera, like walking around with needing to cover like half my face to just not be a significant distraction to some people. So yeah, so I'm suffering from my second round of Bell's palsy in 4 years. It's so much fun. I've lost control of half my face and my eye and my lip, and a bunch of for some reason it comes with significant amount of pain for me, which is a little bit different than what I know that other people have to deal with. I can't pronounce my P's properly without great amount of difficulty, so pardon that. Why is there so many P's in the English language? And then on top of that, I'm also having some other significant but extremely painful issues on top of that, some dental stuff and some other stuff. All hit me all at once. And this last week's been hell, pretty much. But yeah, so that's that. But this week's also been good because we partially because of this, Moon and I have started another kind of thing, the move,
the infamous move. Now we should explain that for those who are not in the loop.
Yes.
And yeah, so you and Moon are a little more than coworkers, aren't you?
Yeah. little bit more than coworkers. She's here in the room, so pardon the mic, but yeah. Yeah, you wanna say a little bit about it?
I'm getting all bashful now.
Oh, okay. So basically, Moon and I have been working together for like several years, and this last summer we decided to try out a full-time relationship, which has now pretty much moved into officially together phase. So yes, it's been good, and it's especially in this last week. She's been a lifesaver, and we've started the process of moving her over from her place to my place, and so we're this is a fully committed thing, and we're hoping to introduce a few more organisms into this world's ecology system.
Yes.
Over the next few years. So yay! And trust me, I am actually very, very, very excited. I just am trying to.
He just can't move his face.
I can't move my face, and it's worse than that. Not only can I not move my face, but in order to speak as close to normally as I can, I actually have to use a couple of tools and my hand to keep my left side of my face from just slurring my words all the time. So I actually have like it's a toothpick type thing that I've bent in, and I'm using to control the left side of my cheek as I'm talking. And so I'm literally performing puppetry on my own face to allow myself to speak with some coherence.
Well, there you go. Funky Moyne says, so Moon is the Cybe's sysadmin. Yes, indeed.
That's right.
Yeah.
And Terror K says, I kind of figured, but congrats on it being official, you little lovebirds.
Oh, thanks.
Now, by the way, you have made several attempts to actually get the piece of paper, right? Like,
yeah, we've been trying to get the piece of paper and have it signed, sealed, and officiated.
Mm-hmm.
But right now, due to COVID and due to some other paperwork issues, it's every time we go, they look at us and say, "I'm sorry, sir, but you need a different form for that." And I'm like, "What form do we need?" And well, we don't know what the form is, but you definitely need that form. You need a form that you don't know what the form is or how to get it? Yes. Where do you need it from? The States. Okay, cool. So call up the States, and I'm like, "Hey, I need this form," and they're like, "No, that form doesn't exist. We don't use those anymore. That's not a thing that we've been using for the past 25 years. And it's like, okay, so how do we explain this to my local government? And they're like, we don't know, and good luck with that, because we know how crazy our bureaucracy is, and so therefore we assume that yours is just meant to make your life incredibly painful and difficult.
Well,
so yeah, another reason why I hate government bureaucracy.
So, yeah. Give it a year or so, there'll be some little moon cybes running around, or cybe moons, or half cyborg, half all right. So all right, some bizarre comments today. Blissful Soul asks, why is there a cat on my screen? I don't know. Why are you watching cat videos? Neon Arcade says, who is the cat? What the hell are you guys talking about? Lady Reaver says, Ash is a cat. What? Holy crap. Why did nobody tell me that I was a cat? Hold on. I know what to... No, I don't know what to do. Are you... Has this been on the whole time?
Yes, you said you were going to share footage, but it kind of reminds me of a lawyer who appeared before a judge just recently on a YouTube video that is absolutely hilarious in every possible way. So it could just be an homage to that.
See, well, okay. This is going to look ridiculous now, me and my serious intro to this show. All right, well, I'll just, I'm just going to disappear now. Bye-bye. There we go. Why did nobody tell me? I can't believe nobody in there. Oh, Lady Reaver got it. Awesome. You win the prize. Yes, I'm here live, and I'm ready to go forward with it. I'm not a cat. Okay, if you haven't seen the viral video of the U.S. court proceedings where the lawyer couldn't turn off his cat filter, where have you been today? Where have you been? It's hilarious.
Oh, it was so funny.
All right, so let's get on to channel updates, and then we'll get into the news. So, as you know, I've been posting messages letting you all know that, first of all, that we were taking a break from the podcast, and we took a break on Saturday. We originally weren't planning to do one today, but there was just so much news, and we decided also that we should put a voice to the podcast as far as the updates and changes that are coming. So we're doing some moving and shaking around the channel. We are not going anywhere. The Triple S League channel is not going anywhere, but we are expanding and trying to not hold all of our eggs in the same basket anymore. It's not working. We figured that it's not working very well with the algorithm, plus things are just getting dicier and dicier with YouTube. So this podcast is going to be moving to a new channel starting, can't tell you exactly what day, but it is going to be very soon. And so if you want to get a head start on that, you can look in the description below on this live stream, and you can find a link to our new Triple S Podcasts channel, and you can subscribe there, and then you will be notified as soon as we start going live on that channel. That channel is also going to have, that's where all of our gaming news content is going to be.
Mm-hmm.
So we are set. The goal here is to separate out the news content from the game guides and other sort of more direct, like game-focused content, separating out the news content.
And the main reason for this is that YouTube has, so they really are punishing channels that are multi-content, that have multi-content on it. If you make a channel that's dedicated to cooking, if you talk about anything other than cooking, you are going to be punished severely. Same thing with games, same thing with live streams. If your live stream content does not match your exact content that you cover in an almost precise category, and this is even like cross genre. So if you have a channel that's about racing car games and then you cover an RPG, you are going to be significantly harmed in the algorithm. And so this really just boils down to that. This does mean that we will have hopefully more live streams. So one of the things that we're going to be doing is we are going to be streaming the on the new channel. We will be taking a stab at streaming the BlizzCon. I just got this about 2 minutes ago. We got the approval to go ahead and stream it. So we're going to be streaming the parts of the BlizzCon, not all of it, because a lot of it's going to be kind of boring. But their overall like news segments, their overall like where they're going as a company. We're going to stream this because it is newsworthy, not because we necessarily support all the moves that Blizzard has been making, but we support their attempt to show us new stuff, and then we will rip them for all of the terrible mistakes that they make, and we will make it, and we'll reference all the "don't you guys have phones" jokes, as much as we can.
Yep.
But just overall, it's going to allow us to do more regular streaming over there, and again, it just boils down to YouTube has been really screwing with channels. They want a ton of channels to be doing stream content, but that stream content is not something that they want on existing channels covering different things.
Yeah.
So if you make guides, they don't want you doing live streams. If you do live streams, they don't want you doing guides on the same channel. That's basically what it boils down to. It's annoying. It's difficult. It risks putting us behind. One thing that, again, we reiterated this last week, if you guys support us on one, we consider that support across everything, and we will try to find a way to have that recognized. There is some tools that we get from YouTube, and hopefully we'll be able to put those to really, really good use. And we will be moving over some of the edited some content from the live streams from the podcast. We will be editing them into short clips here on the main channel that specifically revolve typically around the games that we cover. So there will continue to be live content from the podcast over here, but it's just going to be moved and tweaked a fair bit because YouTube doesn't know what they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
So this doesn't seem to affect some people where the channel is just about them. So people like Asmongold, people like PewDiePie, Markiplier, that kind of stuff. Like they're variety streamers, but the stream circulates around them as a person, and not necessarily around as much of the content that they do. So that's why some of those channels have had more success than we have had with that. So and why there seems to be a little bit of a difference. I hate these algorithms at this point. I just wish the algorithms would go away and just allow like regular humans to like and promote the content that they think is good. But that would be crazy and ridiculous. So
Yeah, well, let the audiences decide what should be popular.
Yeah.
That would be insane. Funky Moin says, let us not forget this channel started with a kitchen, how to make Nuka-Cola. Oh, yes, the good old days. Setting up our crappy webcam in Cybe's kitchen to make those videos. Yes, but it was a lot of fun. So, yeah, we're spreading, but we're not going anywhere. We're also going to be moving videos to other video platforms, and also expanding where we live stream the podcast. The podcast will be live streamed on Twitch as well, and possibly some other platforms as well. If you have any that you would like to suggest, please let us know. Join the Discord server. You can talk to us there. That's the best way to get your ideas to us. If you leave a comment or something, we may or may not see it, just because we get so many. And I think that's about all there is to say about that for now. We will keep you updated. Of course, the Discord is the best place to get updates. We will also be posting community posts here. This is still going to be considered the main channel. So, when we post things on other channels, we'll post links here in, community posts, things like that. So if you want sort of a central location, you can say subscribed here. If you want to subscribe to all the channels, because we now have the Nuka-Cola. Oh man, our show hasn't been called that in forever. We now have Triple S Radio. There will be more coming there, I promise. And one other channel that I'm not going to mention right now. That's still in the works. But lots going forward. We're just trying to fortify and put ourselves in a good position going forward. But right now, we are so thankful for those of you who support us on Patreon and who are members here on YouTube, that because we're going to take a financial hit at least in the short term doing this. Podcasts, we can't monetize the new channels until we hit a certain threshold. So we really, really appreciate those of you who are on the Patreon and channel members right now. Really appreciate that as well. Also, just any of you who regularly listen, subscribe, do all of that stuff, members on our Discord server, we really appreciate all that. Funky Moin says, I suggest to not stream on Facebook. Just don't. Well, the thought had crossed my mind, but that's not a big priority for me, streaming on Facebook.
Yeah. Facebook is, despite the fact that we have a few videos up there, not streamed by us, but by other channels and other content creators who came and asked us for permission. I think one of them has been viewed like 5 or 10 million times or something ridiculous like that. But we've talked before on how some of those, how there's a large chunk of Facebook, and I can't do F's or P's right now. This is driving me nuts. How Facebook uses a lot of like bad gimmicky systems to fluff their viewer numbers. And so it's not a platform that I respect in the slightest.
No, I've been super tempted to just I don't even know if our Facebook page there gets any traffic. Moon would know. Tara K says, I probably wouldn't recommend Twitch. They seem to be banning people for offensive new things on a weekly basis. Every few days there's another word, term, or reference on their blacklist. You are correct, Terror. We discovered one. Nuka-Cola. Not allowed. Can't say Nuka-Cola. I tried putting I tried updating our bio there on our Twitch account, and it wouldn't accept it. It was failing moderation. That's what they're calling it now. Until I and I narrowed it down to it was actually the word Nuka in Nuka-Cola that was causing the problem. Because I kept everything the same, changed it to Pepsi-Cola, and not an endorsement of Pepsi, just, I was just changing it to see if that was the problem, and yes, sure enough, that was the problem. So go figure. But anyway, we are going to make a go of it on Twitch just because there's potential to bring in a big audience there. If they ban us, well, so be it.
Yeah, again, I'm not Twitch. It's where people are, and I think our message is important. So I'm like, we're gonna be on there, and if they don't like us, then they don't like us. But for now, it's like, we're gonna start using a resource that we haven't been using up to this point.
We could actually.
And again,
that would probably be
I don't
good.
really care.
That would probably be good marketing. Getting banned off Twitch. It's like, yeah, come listen to the show that Twitch banned.
Yeah. Twitch banned us. What did they ban us for? Did they ban us because we threw a cat over our shoulder like that one girl did, but not like the exact same way that another girl did who was just way more popular and drove more analytics. What about did somebody do a nip slip or wear revealing clothing on stream? No, we just mentioned an idea about corporate censorship. Oh, okay. Well, that's totally understandable. Why in the world would you do that? Yeah. Yes, exactly. The dogs completely agree. So, anyways.
All right. Well, let's get on to the gaming news. So, of course, I'm sure most of you are aware about the big hack of CD Projekt Red that took place this week. Well, within the past couple of days, and I put a video out about it yesterday. So, if you're not familiar, some hackers actually they broke into CD Projekt Red's servers. They stole a whole bunch of things. They stole source code for Cyberpunk 2077, Gwent, The Witcher 3, and for the upcoming unreleased version of The Witcher 3, the next-gen version that they're putting out. And then they also took a whole bunch of things from the business side related to finances, human resources, all kinds of things. It's a real mess. It was a real low blow, and they did it to try and hold CDPR ransom for, I'm guessing, money, but CDPR didn't play ball with them, and so as they made good on their threat, and they dumped the hackers released the source code for Gwent. They leaked that sometime today. Now they posted on our forum, and according to this article, the links to it are now inactive. But I mean, they have it obviously, and they're going to make good on their threat. CDPR is maintaining.
This is going to be a bit of a roller coaster. For those of you that are wondering, yes, you should uninstall Gwent from your computer or your mobile device, and at least until they manage to update the new security systems. This does give a backdoor open to a lot of hackers and people who want to use and abuse the system. And so I would say if you're a fan of Gwent, just remove it temporarily. Probably, honestly, same thing with any of their other games.
So you think there's a risk in actually keeping the games on your system?
Gwent, yes, because it's an online game, right? And
Okay.
it's an online game that requires a connection to play. Cyberpunk and The Witcher, a lot less so, right? Your basic firewall should be providing at least a little bit of protection against that. But because it is the source code, there may be a unique way that they can get some background access to it.
And actually,
so again,
Funky Boy points out that the code contained CDPR's key for Android. That's that's true. So now Gwent is a security risk. Yeah, absolutely.
So now, mind you, most likely a single update will stop this, and a change of Android access key information, that kind of stuff. And most likely that would require a reinstall anyways. So I would say just get on top of it now, remove it from your system right now, and then down the road you can reinstall it. This is really crappy for them. Like these developers, it's not the middle management and lower management guys that the game turned out the way it does. Like maybe a handful of middle management people might have some responsibility in this, but the fact that these are the guys that are getting hurt the most right now, is really sad and is really frustrating, and I'm sure is just really just a dump on their morale, because they got access to a bunch of internal stuff that has hurt them even more. So over the next little bit, just remember that again. It's like, yeah, CDPR messed this up. They focused on spreading themselves too wide, too much, without properly focusing on certain mechanics of the game, without they really tried to do, and they went back and forth on so many issues that I think that if they had just stayed more focused in the last 4 years of development, that if they had just stayed more focused to the original concept that we had reported on originally, that we knew was there, that they knew was going for, if they had just focused on that instead of changing direction every year and a half, significantly too, I think they would have been so much further along than they are now. And I think that they would have, fixed a lot of these issues that were, that were the cause of a lot of these problems. So I'm hoping that in the future they learn from this mistake and they start with the DLC. That the DLC comes out and fixes the majority of the problems to begin with, and the next time they make a game, just like I've mentioned this before, I honestly believe that Bethesda has learned their lesson. I really think that the next two Bethesda games that we're going to see coming out of the Maryland studio are not going to have any of the problems that previous games have had, in large amounts. Obviously, every single game that is ever released will have bugs. That's just the way that games function now. And unless you're making a game that revolves around a singular action with a singular interaction from the computer, I really don't think you can make anything that is bug free. I really don't think that is possible in this day and age, because it's just the way that the immense amount of code, the immense amount of depth that games offer these days. So I think that CDPR can learn from this and move forward. It's really crappy for them right now, and it really kind of sucks for them. And I feel terrible.
But yeah, things like this just definitely don't help. And as I mentioned in my video yesterday, the backlash has become, it's starting to exceed what people were originally angry about in the first place. And I mean, obviously we don't know if these hackers were being opportunist or if they're actually angry about the game, or maybe a mixture of both. We don't really.
So, yeah, we don't know. We do know that they are professionals, because you can't, you got to remember, CDPR had because they run G2A, or sorry, not G2A, GOG Galaxy. They have a financial system, which means they have financial security. They have security systems that are equivalent to banks. And you ask anybody, hey, how hard is it to hack a bank? And the answer to that is you need professionals who are extremely skilled in what they do. Right. Period.
By the way, as a precaution, change your GOG passwords if you haven't already. So
I don't think GOG was hit in the same way. I think
that's the thing. But we don't know. Do we know if the GOG system with the financials and stuff, that could be on a different server system? It could be. We don't know that it was the same. Those security systems weren't necessarily on their servers that got hit, right? Or do you know more than I do on this?
We don't. Nothing has been the only person who knows exactly what was hit was the hackers, and even they may not know the whole story. CDPR is catching up right now on what has been hit, and it could be that this whole thing was just a ruse to get at something else. Right? To get at credit card numbers to run a credit card scam against, major credit card companies. And that they've hit this entirely to, to red herring the what their goal was. I mean, this isn't the first time that, company's been hit and the hackers are after something in particular, and they're actually not after that. They're after something else entirely. Because what do hackers care about? What do black hat hackers care about most of the time? Money. They're not dutiful servants of the public, trying to help right wrongs. That's a white hat hacker, and even most of those are not necessarily what they claim to be. Um, the truth behind this is probably just money. Is money, 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 and how much money somebody was going to make off of this. The second thing I want to add, you commented, a bunch of other people have commented it, going, the note sounds like it was written by a 12-year-old. Yes, the note was written by a professional who writes it in a way to make it as hard as possible to identify or get any concepts of an identity around the person writing the note.
I never said that.
This is the exact same thing that people used to do with letters, hate letters that they would use with cutting
Yeah,
like words
you
out
want
of
it to
magazines
sound
and
like it's not
newspapers.
you. Yeah, exactly. You want to.
Yeah,
make
you
it sound...
you want yes, obviously, and you want to use bad spelling structure. If you use a cadence or a particular turn of phrase that's very common in people from South, Carolina, obviously that's going to narrow down the search of who you're looking for.
Yeah.
Like
I commented. Like, I had no thought that this was written by a 12-year-old. It was very very well structured English. They just made there was one mistake in it that I thought maybe was intentional, because they were like your have been pwned or something. And I think that may have been intentional, because it's like it's
I can guarantee
how
you it was definitely intentional.
And it's kind of a meme, your R, because people would accidentally type the R on the end of the. But anyway, yeah,
I'll never forget that one movie where there's a kid explaining a meme about your bases, all your bases now belong to us or whatever. It was in some movie, and the kid was explaining the meme to his mom in the movie, and I'm like, this is so meta right now. Oh my goodness, this is like you've got a movie, a big blockbuster movie, where a kid is explaining the concept of a meme to his parents, which has been done so by getting the kid to recite lines that were written by a script writer. Like, oh my goodness, it's circular. It's
cyclical. It's very. That's one of my favorites, by the way. And that's one of the earliest internet memes, and it was one. It's one of my favorites. So, Lady Reaver, interesting comment here. Says the thing is, we're already in 2021, and technology is more advanced today than it was back in 2000. Yet we get not just buggy games, but broken games. How does that make sense? Well, I mean, there's probably a lot of discussion that can happen around that question. The way I look at it is that the bugs are not just a function of poorly functioning technology. You had, game engines back 20 years ago, they could not do as much. That doesn't mean they were more buggy. You know what I mean? And so, but because they couldn't do as much, the systems had to be a lot simpler. You go look at the very first 3D shooter engines. They're like I did a lot of reading into the Wolfenstein 3D engine, and that's why it's kind of my go-to for that era. How much they had to simplify things. They originally wanted to have where you could like move bodies around. They wanted to make it a stealth game. They couldn't. The technology couldn't. It just wouldn't work. So they just made it a full-on shooter. And I read about how the shooting mechanics works. It's all like there's a lot of trickery behind the scene to make the game seem a lot more complicated than it actually is. Now, because we have advanced technology, you can do a lot more. You can have a lot more interacting systems. And because, when you have so many things interacting, the potential for misinteractions or bugs or glitches or things breaking goes up exponentially. And so this is not to make an excuse for it, but just to say that programmers are programmers 20 years ago would be doing the things programmers today are doing if they had the technology that could support that. And so I think that it's more a question of the complexity of things that are interacting. You even just look at putting a physics engine into the game, and we've all played Bethesda games where the physics engine just occasionally goes haywire because it's trying to calculate all these interactions between objects and what angle is this at and how hard is it hitting and what material is it made of and is it going to bounce and is it this and the it goes crazy after a while. So again, not to make an excuse for it, because releasing a game that is full on broken, obviously it's not excusable to put out a professional product that people are paying for that's in that state.
Yeah.
But that's why. But I think that's why it feels like games are getting buggier, is because they're just trying to do so much more. But the teams of people working on them,
and the number of people who like we've talked about this before. A couple of games in the past where there's community content creators who are going into forums and going, so I've heard that there's a bunch of T-poses and stuff like this that are going on in this game. I haven't been able to get this to work with my computer. How are people making this happen? And somebody's like, oh, well, if you downgrade to this previous like 2-year-old like graphics driver, and then you're running like this program and this program at the same time, which is just bogging down your graphics card, then you'll get this. And then lo and behold, the content creator comes out with a video where it's like, look at how terrible this game is. And it's like, okay, so the guy did it intentionally, researched how to make it happen, then forced it to make it happen, then acted surprised when he came across it in the game. It's like, I know content creators who do this. Like,
there's definitely some of that. I mean, it's big. It gets views. You put that, that horrible PS1 era looking cyberpunk image on your thumbnail. That's going to get some clicks. But yeah, so there are a lot of factors that go into it. But and Tara K also points this out: the ability to patch games has made developers complacent. Back in the old days.
A little bit. It's also kind of the fact that there are, I mean, in any of the old games, right? In the old, what we would call polished games, there are still like, if you know how to make a bug happen, you know how to like run through entire levels. I remember like it was like a Conan the Barbarian side-scrolling game. One of the very first games that I played as a kid in early elementary in my computer class. And there was a bug that the students knew, that I learned, that you could make the guy jump over a rock and move to the side, and then he could just move throughout the level, avoiding all of the dangers and getting to the end of the thing where they could finish the game without having to do any conflict. It's like that kind of stuff still existed back then.
Oh, for sure it did.
The thing with that is that you can't patch that out, because that game went live and it was published and it was out there, and anybody could beat the game if they knew the trick. And it's like now, yes, of course, there's that problem of like, well, where do we go from here, right? Like what's that now entail? And so there is some give and take with this, but obviously when a company puts out a game that just had no post polish at all, it got to its ready to go phase, and then they basically just said whatever and walked away from it, like what we saw with a whole bunch of games in the last like 5 years, right?
You ever want to see amazing showcases of people exploiting bugs in old games, old Nintendo era, Super Nintendo, any of the old, go watch some speed runs. Go watch some any percent speed runs of these old games, and you will see them doing some crazy stuff. And they actually have this thing that they figured out how to do with the original Super Mario World called arbitrary code execution, where they can actually I saw a video of it the other day. This one guy, by going into one of the early levels and just moving shells around, jumping in certain places, doing this string of things, it arranged the code in memory in such a way that he actually programmed Flappy Bird into Super Mario Brothers, like a console cartridge running on an original Super Nintendo. You can do this crazy stuff. Now, of course, that's a very extreme example, but that so the bugs have always existed, and I guess it comes down to, what do you consider a buggy game and what do you consider a broken game? What's the difference there? I'm seeing in the chat some of you saying, or using these words, buggy versus broken. I don't have a clear definition on what that means, but
so well, I mean, part of that is because that changes from person to person.
Yeah, I think
That's in the eye of the beholder, not necessarily in the eye of the. I mean, it's not even really in the eye of the developer. Somebody can say, I can see that this character isn't looking me exactly in the eye when I'm talking to him. Therefore, that's a broken mess, and other people don't even realize it's a bug.
So Tara is saying Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles on the Commodore 64, you couldn't complete the game because there was an impossible jump in one of the last levels. So if the game's not completable, if that's the standard for it being broken, I would agree. I mean, that's obviously completely unacceptable. Now, that has happened, like Skyrim when it first came out, it had a complete game-breaking bug where you could not complete the game, and they patched it out. And I don't how does stuff like that sneak through and not get caught?
I remember that, but wasn't that Battletoads, not Ninja Turtles? And I'm asking legitimately because I can't remember. I remember that I do remember this bug where it was like, oh yeah, the game was great up until you get to the final level thing where you can't make this jump and it's impossible. And one of the kids at school was like, oh, I did it. And we were all like, yeah, you liar. Nobody was able to do it. That's an impossible jump. It's
yeah. And you can find Luigi in the original Mario 64. Oh, the urban legends about video games back in the day were just, But anyway, but how does that, I mean, we should move on from this topic pretty soon here, but how does that sneak through? How does Skyrim get released with a bug that doesn't allow you to complete the game?
Because, and I talked about this a lot with Cyberpunk, is because the game testers are not working with the released version in the version that's being shipped until it's shipped, until those discs come off the assembly line and are being packaged up to be sent out. They're not playing with that finalized code. They're playing with a version that's either one or two steps behind, back, further ahead in a different patching cycle, that kind of stuff. Very rarely are you playing with version 1.00, 00.00.001. Like, that's just, you are almost never playing with that exact thing versus somebody else in the company. And that's where a lot of these problems come from, is because, especially today, and CDPR had a big problem with this, is that their game was in giant chunks, and these chunks were being put together. And was there more advanced systems in almost every single category? Yes, there was. There were so many different categories and so many different combinations and so many different kinds of assets, and then not all of them made the final transition to the final build of the game, and that breaks things. So that's a huge problem, and that's where and what me and other people within the industry have been saying for a while now is like, look, if you're making a game, you want your game to be release ready 6 months ahead of your release schedule, and then you want to take that release copy and you want to polish that for 6 months. That's what you want to do now. That is the new road to making a game. But unfortunately, a lot of these game studios, and CDPR was heavily fell for this, decided to continue to work on making the base game, not improving, not polishing, not finishing bugs, not bug crushing, not that kind of stuff. No, here's part of the problem, is that they said that they were doing this, and they weren't. It not quite the same. Like, you could semantically argue it, just like with their whole third person. There is third person in the game. You can drive around in a third person vehicle. It's like that's semantics, right? And so yes, this is part of the problem, and the problem is that the game was designed and built so it would release with a they would be working on the content right up to release, and that was bad. You don't do that anymore. And from what I've heard through the grapevine, this is what Bethesda is doing. So Bethesda has already finished, from what I've heard. Again, rumors, don't take it quite as salt, because Bethesda is like Fort Knox. I have an easier time getting a slip of gold out of Fort Knox than I do getting any information out of Bethesda. It's ridiculous. In Bethesda, apparently the rumor is that they've finished the game. They're now just polishing. Like, they finished the game ages ago. Like 6 months to a year ago.
That would be Starfield you're talking about.
That would be Starfield. And they're just bug fixing and adding polish to the game. Or that's their plan. One of those two things is that they will get it to the point where it's complete and ready to go. All their features are now in. The beta stage has passed, and they are now working on fixing bugs and improving systems. And that's that polish stage that most companies, up until recently, most companies did not have. Their polish stage was 2 weeks. It was between the time their polish stage was like, okay, it's gone gold, we're sending it out to get copied to the discs and printed, and now you've got 2 weeks to do bug fixes. That's how it's been recently, and it's been a nightmare for developers, and it needs to stop.
So yeah,
because
it's a process failure. It's a failure in planning and management.
Yeah,
hands down.
You're pulling your hair out, screaming at trying to fix a bug that takes you a month to fix, and you've got 2 weeks before it goes live.
Yep.
It's like, and then you have to, not only do you have to fix it, but you have to then put that into a patch, and then make sure that patch isn't breaking something else in the game. It's a nightmare. It is an absolute nightmare.
Indeed. All right, you are listening to the Augmented Reality Podcast. As we mentioned at the beginning of the show, this show is going to be moving to a new channel. Look in the description below. Find the link to our new Triple S Podcasts channel. It might change the name to Triple S News and Podcasts. But anyway, we're still working on that behind the scenes. But you can find the link below. Subscribe there, and then you'll be immediately notified as soon as this podcast goes live on that channel. We'll be posting news content there as well. Also, check out our Discord server. Please slam the like button if you haven't already. We got a couple more stories to talk about here. And first, let's talk about Ubisoft's Star Wars game. We have a little bit of info about it now. The open world Star Wars game from Ubisoft is going to be using the Snowdrop engine, which is the same engine they used for The Division 2, and and many other games as well. But they'll be using the Snowdrop engine, and I'll just let Cybe run with that. So what does this tell us about what that game could entail?
It means the game is going to be a lot more like Division than it would be like Skyrim by a significant margin. So
would you say
you're
more of a looter shooter?
Not necessarily, but that would certainly be on the tables. You're not going to be able to run into a room, pick up objects, and move them. You're not going to be able to. You're probably not going to be able to build directly like you do with Fortnite or Fallout 4 or anything like that. There's no voxel system for destruction. Pretty much everything will be you'll be able to shoot through windows and put in holes in things and do that kind of stuff, but you're not going to be able to destroy a building. Highly unlikely with that. The amount of vehicles will probably be extremely limited, if there will be any at all. The Snowdrop does not have a good vehicle system at all right now, and I would be very, 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 very surprised if they managed to implement one before release. So yeah, there is a significant amount of problems with anticipating this to be anything other than a fairly generic type game that could probably end up being very much like the last few Star Wars games that we've seen from brain farting. So expect something more along the line of that game than something that's more along the line of Jedi Knight Academy, stuff like that. I don't think that's the type of game.
Are you talking about Fallen Order, or are you talking about
Fallen Order? Yes, Fallen Order.
That said, I mean, Fallen Order was an excellent game in my opinion.
Yeah, it was fine. Right?
It was a very safe. It was a fine game. It wasn't groundbreaking in any way, but it was a good game. If we got one of that quality, I wouldn't be unhappy with that. However, Ubisoft is I mean, we are talking about Ubisoft, who has a very, very bad habit of changing things after release and then adding microtransactions and garbage like that, and so I'm very hesitant about it for that reason.
Yeah, I mean, I would expect something that's more along the line between like taking a cross between Assassin's Creed and The Division, and just combining those two things into a singular experience. That is probably, honestly, what we're going to be seeing.
Wooly
it's
Rams.
Just a combination of those two things.
Wooly Ram says, "Who's ready to consume a Star Wars themed looter shooter with a UB tier storytelling and macro transactions?" And I'm listening to that comment in his Liam Neeson voice, and it sounds awesome. Unfortunately, I don't have the skills for that to mimic Liam Neeson, but
yeah. So yeah, I wouldn't hold my breath for this one to be a pinnacle Star Wars game. I'd say I suspect it might be a good introduction into a new series, and hopefully they don't mess it up, and hopefully we'll end up seeing that something. I suspect quite heavily that there'll be far more of a focus on guns and less on lightsabers. So I think the likelihood that we're going to see a game that features or follows the story of a Mandalorian or some kind of like commando type, that is probably far more likely to see that than to see a game that features and follows the story of a Jedi or a Sith as they do Jedi and Sith type things. I think we're going to have some force powers, but I think the majority of what we're going to be seeing with this is going to be things that the Snowdrop engine excels at, and that's probably going to be excelling at making a very cool, very awesome looking shooter type game with some loot elements and a very, very light social structure type system in the form of like, how the latest Assassin's Creed game kind of has it, like a village and resources and stuff like that to kind of like help your people and whatnot. So that kind of a system, not anything that's like, along the lines of like, a creation world type thing.
I actually just looked up
that's a big no on that.
Yeah. I just looked up what engine the new Assassin's Creed game actually uses, and it's not the same one. But if they came up with something of that quality, minus the microtransactions and things, it could be a very excellent game. I've heard nothing but good things about Assassin's Creed Valhalla in terms of the story and the characters and enjoyment of playing it.
Yeah,
I was told it wasn't not very challenging combat wise, but
they almost have this feeling of I almost feel like there's already like force powers in Assassin's Creed Valhalla, and like I'm like, yeah, I can see them going this route. So yeah, I think just generally speaking, I think that we have a good basis of a game. I don't think it'll be a great, because I don't think they have the experience to do that yet, but I think that we will probably ultimately get there.
Final Ubisoft news here. Ubisoft, it's being reported that they're going to be during an earnings call, they revealed that they are going to be shifting their emphasis towards doing more free-to-play games rather than AAAs.
I think they did this because the outcry that they got when they're like, yeah, we're probably going to make our games cost like $100 in the future. I think they probably put that out to just kind of like try to placate people based on that the hate that they're picking up from that. So yeah,
I'd pay $100 for a game that's worth $100. But anyway, so a couple other stories to wrap up today. So Steam is now officially available in China. Well, I mean, Steam has been available in China, but the Chinese version of Steam is now out there and it has launched. We told you a while back that this would be coming. It's now available, and it has an expansive library of drumroll, 53 games, and no community features.
It's so many, man. I mean, there's so much
Hang on,
to play.
I'm bringing the cat back on the screen. Here's my surprised face.
You know, I have 274 games. Sorry, 278 games in my Steam library. Oh, sorry, no, 282 or 81 games in my Steam library. I forgot to count the hidden ones. But yeah, good lord, wow,
Yeah,
that's
it's
shocking.
Looking at screenshots of it, it's just a neutered. I mean, it's more neutered than the Epic Games Store.
Mm-hmm.
There's just nothing there. So yeah, screw. You know, I don't.
Yeah.
I'm nothing. I think this is crappy for Chinese gamers. You know that.
Yeah, problem. I would say, yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
Well, you all know. You know, I don't want to start harping on China again, but you all know that we're very pro freedom and pro anti censorship. We're very anti censorship here, so we do not see eye to eye with the big party in China there. Something that we suspect YouTube doesn't like us for. That's another thing. But whatever, screw them. And then another story that is of public interest, I think. So Warner Brothers has been attempting for a while to patent a game mechanic. They've been trying to patent the Nemesis system from Shadow of Mordor, and they finally succeeded. And this is kind of mind-blowing because is this setting I don't know if this has been done before, but is this setting precedent for actually patenting a game mechanics now?
No. So at first glance, no, and at second glance, no. This is still worrisome and still problematic, and still is offering a something to be concerned over. This is also highly hypocritical, considering that this is the same company who outright stole pretty much everything and got sued massively for it, for ripping off of a Bethesda game. So this is just rich coming from them. But in the large scheme of things, patents have to be defended in a lawsuit. And while before they're before they set precedent, there's a lot of patents out there that are on the face. There's a ton of patents out there that claim to hold certain game mechanic type things, but have never been taken to court, and people are in open rebellion of the core concept of the patent. And it's just either like technicalities or small things, or just because the patent holders it's not worth me to sue over this, that none of those things have really been tried and tested in a court of law. So I would say, for the time being, the chances that this becomes kind of a major problem is less likely than what people think. What this does do is this certainly splashes cold water on this idea of transporting this across other things. Also, there are several games that already used a system like this prior to the patent. And again, if a bigger company was to utilize this system and take them to court over it and say, no, your patent is invalid because there are these three other systems that existed ahead of this time on these other games, and you were just clearly using them, and so your patent is false here. If they wanted to, they would almost certainly win those arguments, because the patent was just way too broad. Does this mean that it's a crime? No, it means that they can sue, but then they would have to win. And right now, that's what they are doing right now to hold the ace card in this scenario, because indie companies are not going to mess with them, but other bigger companies will, and they will go to war over that at some point in the future.
I find this highly disturbing because some indie game comes up with something similar, and then they can come in and be like, "Oh, you're violating our patent." What?
Yeah, it splashes cold water on it, but indie companies are always able to outthink big mega companies. Like that's the thing
they're
that
they're not able to outspend them. That's the problem.
Yes, but they're not able to outspend them in a court of law, so they just have to outthink them basically.
And so even if, I mean, yeah, and so a big company like Warner Brothers could, even if they lose and they keep appealing it, they can sue a small company into oblivion and never win the lawsuit. Huh, that sounds familiar. Didn't Bethesda do that? Anyway, I think that's about it for the show today. We could probably talk about this because I think this patent thing is, I don't know a lot about patents.
If you want to get a good in-depth look at it, you can pull up Bellular's video on the subject. He kind of got really into it for about 30 minutes. He talked about case scenarios and stuff like that. Kind of got into the nitty-gritty. It's for the most part fairly on point. There is of course some minor issues that he kind of missed out on, but he did a very, 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 very good job of it. And that's something that I'd like to kind of categorize that in more properly when we get a chance to. So we'll try and do something on this, but suffice it to say, it sounds worse than it is. But all it really does is it showcases the problems, the immense amount of problems that the industry is currently having right now, and the immense problem with the judicial system, where if you have $1 billion to spend on legal fees, you're going to win 99% of the time. And that's just due to being able to keep somebody tied up in court for literally forever. And that system clearly has a lot of problems in it, and the amount of successes that it's giving is a lot less than the amount of pain that it's causing. So, and again, it's there's nobody innocent in this whole pack of big mega corporations that are taking advantage of each other. It's kind of it's kind of like Tim Sweeney going to battle against Google and Apple. It's great job, good for you, worthy fight, but also pot kettle much.
Yeah.
I don't think it's pot kettle. I think it's just two pots calling each other black. And in that phrase, it's black because of the fire and the soot and all that.
We know.
Yeah. But it's just silly and ridiculous that this is the current system that we're seeing with these mega corporations, and this is also the sign where it's normally this is where you break them up and you force them to be smaller companies. So, meh.
All right. Thank you so much for listening, everybody, today. Thank you for the great conversation in the chat, for supporting the show by listening live or after the fact. We really appreciate it. Don't forget to slam the like button before you leave. And a special thank you to our Patreon supporters and our channel members who help to make this content possible. Robin, Shue82, Time Bean, Schoolaman, Lady Reaver, Draco Den, Niv, Too Tall 12, Jer Schultz, Game Notes, and Tara K. Thank you all so very much. If you're listening after the fact on iTunes, Spotify, SoundCloud, or any of the other platforms this podcast goes to, we appreciate your interactions there as well. And don't forget, you can join the live show on YouTube. Soon to be expanding to other platforms. Sub to the new channel. Find the link in the description below. We will update you on that. The Discord is the best place to get all those updates, so definitely check that out. The Augmented Reality Podcast is a presentation of the Triple S League. Check out our YouTube channel for game guides, reviews, comedy, news updates, tons more quality gaming content. My name is Ash. On behalf of Cybe and Moontag, who was very quiet, but she's there, thank you all so much for listening, and we will talk to you again very soon.